G'day people, welcome to pattern video number 3. The last time we met, we were doing shape patterns and we saw this. Right? We saw quite a little bit of this, and you've since done a few exercises on this as well in your books. You are now going to be focused on this alone without seeing the shapes, and you're going to become an expert today in how to figure out what these numbers are down the bottom without them even being there. Let me show you how. You're normally given a rule. Now, last time when we were playing around with the shapes, we sort of got this and we had to figure out what the rule was. Right? But in this case, you're given a rule. Now, don't get too hung up on what these two things are called. They can be called anything, right? At the moment, I'm just calling it top and bottom because it's the top row and the bottom row, but it really doesn't matter. You could call them anything, right? As you'll find out, I've called them a lot of different things in this video. But this is a pretty easy thing. They give you the rule, excuse me, to figure out what to do with the top number to turn it into the bottom number. Pretty straightforward. So in this case, in every case down here, the bottom number is going to equal the top number plus 6. Okay, so that's the top number. 1 plus 6 is 7. 2 plus 6 is 8. 9, 10. You see a pattern straight away. 4 plus 6 is 10. It's still working. 11, 12, 13. Right? And in each case, in every single case, the bottom number is the top number plus 6. 7 plus 6 is 13. Okay? Easy enough. Right? The only way they're going to make this harder is to make the rule a little bit harder. Okay? Same sort of deal. Dog and cat, like I said, it doesn't matter what it's called. Right? The bottom number equals the top number minus 4. Right? So now, if you don't know what 1 minus 4 is, grab a calculator and find out, or remind yourself about negative numbers. But start where you do know. I know that 4 minus 4 is nothing. I know that 10 minus 4 is 6, 15 minus 4 is 11, 88 minus 4 is 84. It doesn't matter what the numbers are. Again, don't get scared of big numbers. You're doing the same thing with them. Right? Doesn't change what the rule is, doesn't change how hard the question is just because the number is big. 3 minus 4 is minus 1. 2 minus 4 is minus 2. 1 minus 4 is minus 3. Done. Right? Every single one of those bottom numbers is the top number minus 4, as it says. Another one. Got to do a couple of things here. So the top number, you've got to get the top number, times it by 2, and then add 3 to the answer. Right? So start with what it's called. Right? If you're confused about what to do first, just underline what it says there. You're starting there. What are you going to do first? Right? BODMAS, times has to come before plus. All right. So you're going to start with the top number. You're going to multiply it by 2, then you're going to add 3. Okay, I'm going to start with a 1. 1 times 2 is 2. That plus 3 is 5. All right. And again, I've left the 0 there because it might be a bit confusing for me, so I'm just going to leave it for a minute. Once you've done a few of these, you tend to see the pattern and you can fill the rest in without even calculating it. Just like we did with this first one, with the top and bottom. By the time I'd done 7, 8, and 9, we knew that the next one was going to be 10, then 11, then 12, then 13. We didn't have to do the calculations anymore. So if there are some difficult looking things in this table, just pick the few easy ones you can see. Right? I can do this. Put a 2 where the cucumber is, because that's a cucumber number, right? 2 times 2 is 4, 4 plus 3 is 7. 3 times 2 is 6, 6 plus 3 is 9. Seeing a pattern? 5, 7, 9, they're going up by 2. 11, 13, 15, and this one must be down by 2, that's got to be 3. And sure enough, 0 times 2 is 0. 0 plus 3 is 3, it works. All right? So as a nice little shortcut, you can just pick the few easy numbers and get the pattern established and then just fill the rest of it out without even doing any more calculations. It's faster than it looks. Right, a couple more. Here it's being called input and output. All right. So the output is 3 times the input. This number is 3 times this number, and then you take off 4. Okay. Start with 2. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 minus 4 is 2. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 minus 4 is 5. 4 3s are 12. 12 minus 4 is 8. Do you see a pattern? It's going up by 3, going up by 3. I'll just check it. One more. 5 times 3 is 15. 15 minus 4 is 11. Yeah, it's going up by 3. Go up by another 3. Go up by another 3. Go down by 3. 2 minus 3 is minus 1. One more. Last one. Okay. Now, if I'd started with this question, you probably would have said, ah, difficult, right? Because it looks really mathematical and algebraic, and it's got y's and x's in it and so forth, but it's the same as the cat and the dog and the cucumber and the pineapple. It's the same thing. Don't get scared by how things look. Right? Nothing you've done so far is anything more than multiplying something by 4 and then taking away 3 or something like that. Right? We haven't been having to divide 7,612 by 4.961 or something. It's easy maths. It just looks different. It's a very new look, and that's what you have to get used to. But let's do the same thing. The y, the bottom number, equals the top number times 4. Now, by the way, there isn't a times sign there. There isn't a little times there because the x looks a bit like a times. So they just put the two numbers together. So if you see that look, if you see a number next to a letter or two letters next to each other, it just means they're multiplied together. We tend to leave the timeses out of these things. Otherwise, they end up confusing you. So that's 4 times x. Okay, so the bottom number equals 4 times the top number minus 1. Okay, start with the 2. Put a 2 there, right? 2 is x. Put the 2 where the x is. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 minus 1 is 7. Now put a 3 there. 3 4s are 12. 12 minus 1 is 11. 6 4s are 24. 24 minus 1, 23. Now be careful here. You don't see a pattern there. The reason you don't see a pattern there is you don't see a pattern up here. 2, 3, 6, that's not a pattern. As long as this goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you can sort of look for the pattern that we looked for up there. But if it doesn't, if these numbers up here jump around a little bit, that sort of searching for the pattern and then filling it out doesn't work. Right? So this one is deliberately a little bit harder than usual. So we have to physically do each one of these. We're not going to be able to spot a trend. Okay, put a 1 there. 1 times 4 is 4. 4 minus 1 is 3. Right. 10 4s are 40. 40 minus 1 is 39. 100 times 4 is 400. 400 minus 1 is 399. Again, don't be scared of big numbers. You're doing the same thing with them. 2.5. This will work with fractions and everything. 2.5 times 4 is 10. Trust me. Again, if you don't know, grab a calculator, find out. 10 minus 1 is 9. There you go. So that is the first of 2 skills I want to teach you. I personally think that's really easy, but again, like I said in the last video, this is one of those easy things that looks a lot harder than it is, and it can scare you off. Don't be scared of it. All right. The other skill with these is actually figuring out what the rule is. Let me show you. So here's one that's finished. Excuse me. So here's one that's finished, but we don't know what the rule is. We've got to work out what it is. Right? This is how to do it. Now, when that rule was up there, it told you what you had to do to the top number to get to the bottom number. Right? So that's what we've got to figure out. Right? Now, there's a way to do this. This first one's pretty easy. You've probably figured it out already, right? That's 3 times as big as that. That's 3 times as big as that. That's 3 times as big as that, right? Every single one of them, right? 3 5s are 15, 3 6s are 18, right? So it looks very much like the bottom number is just the top number times 3, and it is, okay? So to write the answer, to write the rule, bottom, you always start with the number on the bottom, right? That equals something done to that, right? Equals the top number times 3 in this case. So that's it. I'll give you a slightly harder one. There's a particular sequence that will let you get particularly hard ones here. Watch this. We didn't need it for this one because this was fairly standout. So, okay, Megan and Harry. All right. Now you probably noticed in this that this is going 1, 2, 3, 4. The difference between them is 1. And this is going 3, 6, 9, 12. The difference between them is 3. That's important. This is the first thing you look for. Right? If it's not obvious, and this one isn't obvious, right? What do you have to do to a 1 to make 5 that would also work to turn 2 into an 8 and turn 3 into 11? It's not obvious, this one. Right? The top one was a little bit more obvious. They were all just multiplying by 3. So the first thing you do, right? Firstly, make sure that they're only changing by 1, right? And they are. And ask yourself, how much are these changing by? The change is nearly always the same size, as long as the change up here is the same size, right? So again, sometimes they mix the numbers up. higgledy-piggledy. This isn't like that. This is nice and easy. So changing by 1. Now this, they're changing by 3. Okay, 5 plus 3 is 8, 8 plus 3 is 11, 11 plus 3 is 14. So that number, if that's however much this changes, when that changes by 1, that's the number that you have to multiply the top by. So the start of this answer is this. Megan, it's always the bottom one, always out by itself on the bottom, right? And the other one is over here with all of the stuff done to it, right? The bottom heading is always out there first by itself. Megan equals Harry times 3. That changes by 1, that changes by 3. That changes by 1, that changes by 3. Right? Megan is changing 3 times as much as Harry. That's exactly what that says. Right? Megan, 3 times Harry. Said the same thing. But it's not just that. Right? If we just left it there, that'd be wrong, because then you'd go, well, if Megan is 3 times Harry, then 1 times 3 is 3, but it doesn't say 3, it says 5. So we've got to do something else. Right? If it was just that answer, how much would it be wrong by? Right? 1 times 3 is 3. You have to add another 2 to get to 5. Let's try that again. 2 times 3 is 6. You have to add another 2 to get 8. 3 3s are 9. You have to add another 2 to get 11. Right? The mistake is the same all the time. You have to add another 2. You have to add another 2. Right? 4 3s are 12. Right? 4 times 3 is 12. You have to add another 2 to get to 14. So as long as you add another 2, it's going to be right. So that is the answer. If you get a question like this that says find the rule between these two numbers that matches Harry with Megan, that's the answer to the question. Right? I'm going to do this a few times. This is a new sequence to get used to. So I'm going to show it to you several times. You can play this video back whenever you want, and you'll get several examples. If you already think you're an expert at it, by all means, turn me off and get on with it, okay? But I'm going to do about 5 more examples here. There you go. One at a time. Let's focus on this. Right. First things first. When this changes by 1, how much does that change by? Well, that's changing by 1, changing by 1, changing by 1. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's changing by 2. 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 plus 2 is 7. 7 plus 2 is 9. All right, so that's the first part. The answer, the bottom number is always, the bottom heading is always out there by itself on the left, equals the top times 2. Now we have to see if that's the only thing you have to do. 1 times 2 is 2. No, it's not the only thing you have to do because that's wrong, right? You have to add 1 to get to 3. Let's see if that always works. 2 2s are 4. You have to add 1 to get to 5. 3 2s are 6. You have to add 1 to get to 7. So you have to add 1 to make it right. That's the correct answer. Another one. Just get that right at the top so you don't have to worry about the other bit. These are a bit close together. Input and output. As this changes by 1, this is changing by how much? What's the difference between 2 and 7? What's the difference between 7 and 12? 5. 2 plus 5 is 7. 7 plus 5 is 12. So it's going to be output, bottom heading out by itself, equals input times 5. But is that all you have to do? Let's have a look. 1 times 5 is 5. What do you have to do to a 5 to get to 2? You have to minus 3. Right? 1 5 is 5. Minus 3 is 2. 2 5s are 10. 10 minus 3 is 7. So I have to minus by 3 to get it right. 3 5s are 15. Minus 3 is 12. So to make this correct, you've got to minus 3. There you go. Now, if you're not sure you got it right, just check it with one of the other numbers. Let's try it. Let's see if this works, right? If you started with 5, 5 times 5 is 25. 25 minus 3 is 22. It says 22. You got it right. Okay, next one. Halsey and Drake. Okay. This is looking hard. So if you don't like negative numbers, go up here where they're nice. right? I don't mind, so I'm going to stay down here. And I'm going to change color because I'm getting sick of looking at blue. I'm going to go green. All right, as this changes by 1, what's that changing by? -7 plus 3 is -4. And again, if you don't know that, either check it with a calculator or go up here where you do know it. You do know that 2 plus 3 is 5, right? As that's changing by 1, that's changing by 3. So just double check that it's always doing that. As this is changing by 1, this is changing by, 3. 5 plus 3 is 8. Okay, so Drake equals Halsey times 3. Now, is there a mistake? Yeah, there is, because 1 times 3 is not -7. So again, if you don't like playing with those, look it up here. Just do the times 3 bit and see what happens. 4 times 3 is 12. You'd have to take away 10 to get back down to 2, right? Let's see if that still works, right? Taking away 10. 5 times 3 is 15. You'd have to take away 10 to get to 5, right? 6 times 3 is 18. You'd have to take away 10 to get to 8. So you've got to take away 10. That's the difference. There's your rule. 2 to go. You're almost finished. Okay. Now, spoiler alert, this is a little bit harder because these are not changing by 1. They're changing by 2. So you have to figure out what happens down here when these guys change by 1. Right? That's the rule. So as this changes by 2, this changes by 4. So if it had changed by 1, surely that would only change by 2. That makes sense? So have a look at it. This is always changing by 2. This is always changing by 4. So if a difference of 2 on the top leads to a difference of 4 on the bottom, then a difference of 1 on the top surely would lead to a difference of 2 on the bottom. You just divide them both by 2. Okay, so this is what we're going to focus on. If that changed by 1, that would change by 2. Okay, so toe equals finger times 2. Right, let's try it and see what the mistake is. 2 times 2 is 4. You'd have to add another 2 to get to 6. So it looks like it's going to be plus 2, right? 4 times 4 is 8. You'd have to add another 2 to get to 10. Yep, we're adding 2. Double check it. 10 times 2 is 20, right? Finger times 2. 10 times 2 is 20. I have to add another 2 to get to 22. Yep, that's right. Last one. Thanks for being so patient. X and Y. I'll do this in pink because that's pink. I'm going to match it. All right. As this changes by 1, what would that change by? Now this is changing by 3 at the moment up here. Right? So I'm going to divide it by 3. When this changes by 3, that changes by 9. Right? Changes by 3, changes by 9. Right? 18 plus 9 is 27. That's changing by 9 when that changes by 3. 6 plus 3 is 9. Okay? So, again, come over here. If a change of 3 at the top makes a change of 9 at the bottom, then a third of that change, if that only changed by 1, that would have only changed by 3, right? A third of that change gives you a third of that change. Just like a half of that change gives you a half of that change. You just have to scale it down. So, looking back to this, if that had changed by 1, that would have changed by 3. So, Y equals X times 3, right? If that had changed by 1, that would have changed by 3. So you can write X times 3, or you saw it before, you could just write 3X. You're allowed to do that. Right? In fact, it's preferred. Well, this is fine for now, but that's preferred. You're going to see that a lot. Okay, now, what's the difference? What's the mistake? X times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Don't have to change anything. 6 times 3 is 18. You don't have to change anything. So you don't have to go plus 10 or minus 4 or minus 2 or something. That's it. That's the answer. All right, that's a lot of work to take in. Have another look at this video if you're a little bit confused. Run it through, pause it whenever you need to pause it. But otherwise, if you understand this, congratulations, you've done a good job.